Murlough has around 15% of the UK's dune heathland, and is in a unique position because the dunes have been decalcified over 6,000 years. In other words, all of the calcium that was in the crushed seashells and sediment has leached out of the soil because of weathering over such a long period of time. This crucially lowers the pH of the soil. The soil has become acidic. This lowered pH attracts mosses, which exude organic acids, and those in turn attract heather. This is truly an irreplaceable environment, one which harbours a great ecological importance, and so it certainly needs protecting. In agreement with the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, DARD for short, we have to cut a set target of scrub per calendar year. By doing this, we ensure that our rare dune heathland ecosystem is maintained and promoted. It is also to satisfy our agreement with DARD, who contributes a large sum of money to our funding. In order to cut the scrub though, we need to gain consent from NIEA, because Murlough is classified as an ASSI and an SAC. The SAC being a European designation, stating that Murlough is of a European importance.
Yeah, we'll get a bit hot. Bring me to You know, nothing can run smoothly in the trust, because if it runs smoothly then, you know.
So you may have heard of this term scrub being thrown around here and there, but what actually is scrub? Well, scrub vegetation is often a word synonymous with shrub vegetation. So a scrubby plant is a woody perennial that can be up to 6 meters in height, and especially in our case, the plant is very resistant to winds and frost. The scrub found here at Murlough is covered from head to toe in spines. And in the case of the buckthorn, these spines contain poison. Brilliant.
That's true. If you were on the dole, this is a good place to go.
Aye, oh aye.
You get a house.
Aye, you get an allowance that you can
not live off, because it's not enough, but...
The main scrub contenders are the two gorse species, the European gorse and the Western gorse, which is native to Northern Ireland. We also have sea buckthorn, blackthorn, and to an extent, brambles. The thing is, if we left the scrub to do as it pleases, we would be up to our necks in it within the decade, and the all-important heather and mosses will disappear. This is due to an ongoing process known as succession. Over time, the soil profile will get deeper and more nutrient rich as organic material grows and then dies. This leads to more demanding species such as blackthorn and birch to settle in, eventually leading to a stabilised oak woodland ecosystem known as a climax community. However, we do not want a climax community to be established, as we want to create and maintain what is known as a plagioclimax community. A plagioclimax is simply an ecosystem which is halted in its tracks, if you will. It cannot progress to the next stage succession because of human activity. To maintain the plagioclimax, we must manage the scrub, with the use of blood, sweat, and tears, and then some more sweat. We volunteers mainly use petrol strimmers, once we've had the training and safety precautions of course. It goes without saying that when using any sharp tool, motorised or manual, PPE is vital. Our gear consists of a hard helmet with face guard, a harness to hold the strimmer, gloves and steel toe-capped boots, most of which is in the oh-so-trendy safety orange. Long-sleeved shirts and loose-fitting trousers are advised to stop the abundant thorns from pricking the skin. Here's Khalid, one of the volunteers, to give you a rundown.
So this is the harness for the strimmer. It clips in here, just like that. So it's tight to your body, and it's adjustable. So depending on how tall you are, you can put it on through a different hole. So there the strimmer's nice and secure. It's easy to swing. It's easy to operate, and you're not going to drop it or anything. And a good hat, a good hard hat with a visor to protect your eyes, and earmuffs so you don't lose your hearing, like so. Alright, so you prime it 6 or 7 times first, just to get some fuel into the engine, and put the choke on, and you're good to start.
The rangers are qualified to use chainsaws, and so they cut down the thicker scrub which has been left to mature. This is really helpful because the strimmers would struggle, and cutting these old beasts with a bow saw is no fun at all. When it comes to actually cutting the scrub, there isn't a right or wrong way of going about it, just use common sense. It is best to cut a small opening to expose the stems, and then cut away until there is nothing left. But it's best to take your time, unless you like being reckless and riddled with thorns. If the base of a stem is exposed, cut it. Then remove the branch, rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat until you have cleared the entire side of a dune, in most cases. For some species, this is easier than others. Gorse is especially hard, and then even harder if you're the poor sod using a bow saw. Once it's cut, the stumps are then treated with glyphosate, a powerful herbicide used to prevent further regrowth from occurring. Here is Rich to explain the dangers of using herbicide.
Okay, so this chemical is a herbicide, specifically it's glyphosate, and it's pretty nasty stuff. We use it to manage all of the scrub that we cut, in particular gorse. So what we do is we'd come in, cut the gorse, paint this over the top, and jobs are good. It's a translocating herbicide, which means even when we do paint the stumps, it will move throughout the plant and will end up in the roots of the plant. And the way this works is that it inhibits photosynthesis, which means the plant is starved of food, basically, and it dies. This chemical is dangerous stuff, and as a result it needs to be stored in really, really thick plastic because it's inert. It won't react with the chemical. If this was stored in, say, a metal container like a tin, it'll end up rusting, it'll go through, and if this was on soil or something, it will leach into the soil and kill everything around it. It's worth noting that when we store this, we store it in big, heavy metal safes with the necessary warning sign, of course. And this is sat on concrete, because concrete doesn't react, and of course the chemical can't leak through concrete. And it's in a big chemical shed in the middle of nowhere. When applying this stuff, you need to wear nitrile gloves. It's rubber, so that won't react and it won't go into your skin. It's also worth mentioning that you shouldn't ingest the stuff because you'll die, and if you spill it, you'll also die because the rangers will chase you. We don't want to kill half the reserve of this stuff. And you actually need a license to use it and to purchase it. And some of us volunteers, we got licenses. I'm one of them. Graham is another. So if you're there walking your dog in the reserve, you might see us at some point bending over with a paintbrush, applying it.
All of the scrub is then piled and left to dry until the really cold months kick in. This is when we start scrub burning. How can I describe scrub burning? Well, half the time you're freezing cold and wet.
Eating a soup and sandwich in our shelter. Bed full of bracken.
Or you are too hot because you're trying to control a roaring bonfire which is showering you and your clothes with embers. We start by making a small pyre out of seasoned dry kindling to make sure the fire doesn't go out. As we are often burning in the dunes, it can get pretty windy, so I will be seen taking my jacket off to shield the delicate fire from the winds.
So, oh fuck! Yeah, it's gonna be hot.
Sorry.
Take it out. Yeah, it's out.
There it goes.
There we go.
Not for long.
Put that piece right beside it to shield it. Hold it there for as long as you feasibly can, because we need to build up the heat. That's it. Now just rest it. You can move your finger now. There we go. piece of work. I'm actually going to put these on because I can't be arsed with...
Yeah, still go through.
Yeah, yeah, that's petroleum.
Once the kindling is alight, we hold dry, dead gorse above the flames. The key here is to have fuel that has a lot of surface area with little moisture. This would cause a flash fire that creates a lot of heat quickly, drawing in oxygen from underneath. With gorse, maintaining a fire is pretty easy, even when the wood is still green. Buckthorn, though, is a different matter entirely. Because the branches are spread out, when piled there is often a lot of airspace, meaning the majority of the wood doesn't heat up enough. To counter this, we compress the wood down, with a pitchfork, or the heaviest ranger we can find. Burning the scrub can be time consuming, and there are times when we need to bring in the big guns. Tractors can make short work of what will be a few days worth of work. And who doesn't like watching a huge roaring bonfire? So now you know about the hardship and peril that we volunteers go through in the winter, all in the name of conservation.